I'm out of control and miserable. Thank God for the amygdala. Maybe I'm fixable, except I've got trust issues. Go and grab your tissues. I'm unavailable, unavailable.
Hello, and welcome back to the Unavailable podcast. Just a reminder, it's not unavailable. I had a lot of questions about that this week when I saw some of my family friends. They were very confused. It's just all in the branding, it's in the marketing. I kind of am reheating some nachos from Just Trish because I like having the name in the title. And again, the Unavailable podcast, really, it was about the name. It was never really about the concept. Like, Unavailable, I just think is a good name. So I was like, how can we get a concept to fit around this? That kind of ties into today's episode because I feel like my episodes so far have been very comedic and lighthearted and very, mean-spirited. Not mean-spirited, but a little evil. Like, I've definitely been putting on a show. I've been doing a character that's maybe a heightened version of myself, kind of doing some stand-up bits, if you will, being like, oh my god, gay planes. And, like, that is me. That's a part of me. But I also have multiple facets of my personality. A good friend of mine listened to my first 3 episodes this week, which was nice because I was complaining, like, my close friends, they don't support me, they don't do anything. But that's really not the truth. It's just that they support me in every other aspect of my life, that they're like, why would I listen to your podcast when I listen to you and all the things you're saying you've said to me a million times, which, like, facts. But one of my friends was like, I listened to all 3 episodes. I'm like, wow, that actually is dedication to listen to 3 hours of me off the clock. And she was like, you're not really that serious. And I was like, She thought that I was gonna be giving, like, real advice. And the thing is, I can give real advice, like, really well. I feel like that's actually one of my passions and something I'm really good at. And maybe it's a little bit of coaches don't play. It's like I give out really good advice, but I don't necessarily use my advice. And then it was really funny because I'm at work and we have this bartender and he's older and I love him. He's so fucking funny. He has this kind of my dad's sense of humor, like that Bostonian, very dark, kind of cutthroat humor, straight to the point, right? And he looked at me the other day and he's like, what happened to you? Something dark has had to happen to you in your past to make you like this. Because I think he recognizes, like, crazy sees crazy, and he's like, you're really funny too, but, like, something fucked up had to have happened. I was kind of like, yeah. My dad died when I was 12, and he was like, how? And I was like, are you for real? Because I just said it so nonchalantly. I said it so nonchalantly that he was like, really? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, oh, like how? And I was like, he just hit his head. And he was like, fuck. And I realized, I don't tell people that when I meet them. And I have a really hard time with it because I feel like it defines my personality in a way, or maybe it starts me off in a relationship with getting these sympathy cards. And there's so much online about gaslighting and love bombing and trauma dumping that I'm very anxious to share that, when in reality, when you're establishing a relationship, you should be talking about serious and deep things and experiences that really shaped you or transformed you. But I'm sitting here keeping so much to myself because I'm so worried about how the other person will perceive that, which is so fucking weird because I don't give a shit about that at all. Like, I wear crazy ass outfits. I was going through my phone the other day and I would wear green outfits, like monochrome, like green bucket hat with a sunflower on it. I would wear like a green shirt over a green sweatshirt over like another shade of like army jeans, and boots, like combat boots, and it'd be like, you're going to clock into voice and speech level 2 for your BFA in theater arts. Like, why are you dressed in a green Care Bear shirt over a green hoodie? Okay, but then the bottom half is saying like, we're going to war. So I don't give a fuck about my perception, but when it comes to this one thing, I find myself kind of closed off about it. Just holding on to things and not talking about things so deeply. And so today was the first day where there was one thing on my unavailable list, right? And it was just unavailable for job interviews where you're sitting there And you're like, what do I do now? Like, they seat you. They're like, you can sit here. Would you like a water? Would you like a coffee? And I just went to an interview for the first time where I was like, yeah, I'd love a coffee. And they brought me out a coffee and I was like, I guess I'll sip this. But I'm like, is it unprofessional to be on my phone right now? I don't have like a distraction. And what am I going to do? Bring a fidget spinner or the Play-Doh to the interview to like have something to do? But I'm like, this is so awkward. I'm just sitting there trying to look professional. But it's like, if I occupy myself with a phone, they're going to be like, wow, she's so Gen Z. She is so 22. So it's really embarrassing. It's a really vulnerable moment. But anyways, that was the only thing on my unavailable list. And I'm like, why don't we just take the time to get deep, to prove my critics wrong, that I can be deep? Even though I created this podcast to be really talking about nothing, I feel like that's kind of my path in life. The world is so serious already. There's so much war. People are hungry. There's so much poverty. Capitalism fucking sucks. And I just want to be like, all right, like, let's just talk about my TSA checkpoint experience. And then the girlies can get their mind off of their OCD and their racing thoughts. Also, I think it's Happy OCD Day. Is it happy? I have OCD. A Happy OCD Awareness Day? Is that what you say? Yeah, it's OCD Awareness Day, and I keep seeing these really funny clips about like Happy OCD to the woman in my ceiling that I'm convinced that lives there. So thinking about OCD things, Happy OCD to me reversing out of the driveway and always thinking I'm gonna hit my cat or my dog even though they're inside. Happy OCD to me having to close the door, open it back up when I'm about to leave the house, and double check the oven and literally switch all of them on and then off again so that I know that I'm not about to burning the house down. Happy OCD to me checking the hair straightener 3 fucking times. Happy OCD to me putting on body lotion, deodorant spray, perfume, just to make sure I don't smell bad. Happy OCD to that. But there are experiences in my life that have really formed me to be like this. And I was like, maybe I should make an episode about that. Maybe it's like we ditch the calls. Maybe unavailable, the concept is really a launching point to just be myself. And maybe I'm not being myself and being truthful enough. And like, what if we try to do that? Starting off with a good thing this week is I did get the job that I discussed. I got a job doing something that I'm good at, but I don't necessarily think is going to be my path. And I hope to God it's not, because that really scares me. But at the same time, I'm seeing 26 an hour and I'm like, that's kind of rules. And it's sad that that is like a high pay rate, I think, because a lot of people struggle to make it on that wage. So luckily I'm living at home and I'm like, okay, I can save up my money. But then that delays my thoughts of like, well, I want to move to a new city. And when do I move to a new city? And what if I stick it out with this job and then I just, stick to the money because this is where the money is, and I never pursue, that dream of like moving to Hollywood, moving to New York City and, being a production assistant or being a director, writing something, or, just being like an influencer in LA. Like, what if that's my path? Like, how will I know when it's time to go? That actually brings me to something that I actually wrote down. After I had my unavailable list in my notes app, that was kind of unserious and it was just that one thing, I just took pen to paper, old-fashioned, and I went through and just wrote some quick notes down on my clipboard, which I'm usually always tapping. Like, God bless, we're being serious today because I haven't not tapped it once. And one of the things I wrote down was you have to let go to create more space, because I struggle with saying goodbye. So when it's time to leave a job, it's just time to leave and no explanation needed. Sometimes you just feel in your heart and maybe you don't have the next thing lined up and that's okay, but you've got to let go to make space. How do you know when you move to a new city that you won't find a job that's $35 an hour or a salary job? How do you know that there's not more money if you move to a new city? I think people often think moving, like you gotta save up, which is true, but also like you shouldn't move unless you have a job lined up. But how do you know unless you go that there isn't something out there that is better for you and better suited for you? So yeah, I'm kind of pro ditching the fucking plan and embracing what you don't know. But also, embracing what you don't know is scary, because what if you just keep embracing what you don't know and your whole life you decide like, I'm a freelance person, right? And then you keep going gig to gig to gig and there's no stability. And what if it's just embracing I don't know to the point where that becomes your permanent? embracing the temporary becomes your permanent. And maybe that's what life's all about, but also that's scary to me. You know, I know a lot of people that are bartenders that work and they move from restaurant to restaurant to restaurant, right? And it's same, actors move from project to project to project. And to me, I'm like in these career fields where there is no permanence, and I struggle to say goodbye. And I remember when I was younger, I would do theater shows, which like, oh, it's so embarrassing to talk about. It's so embarrassing to talk about it. But then yet again, I got my BFA in theater. I minored in film and TV, and now I literally announce myself as if I've graduated with a film and TV degree, because I'm like, that's a little less embarrassing. But all that to say, I used to get show depression. Sometimes I would stay home from school after a show closed, and it could be like the community theater production of Peter Pan Jr., because I was so sad. Because when you think about it, like theater, you can do a show a million times, you can do a script different times with different companies, with different casts, but it's never with those same designers, those same producers, in that same room with the same costumes. It's just so temporary. So it's weird, right? Someone like me that struggles so much with saying goodbye picked a career field where that's all you do. It's really just the struggle of saying goodbye and rejection and learning how to just accept it and move on and how to bounce back. And it's just so weird that sometimes we cling and we resonate with the things we are scared of most. And some of my best decisions that I've ever made are decisions that I made because I said, you know what, I'm afraid of that thing, so I'm gonna do that thing. I'm just going to do the thing that I'm most afraid of, so that when I do it, I can prove to myself that it's done and I got over it and I made it through the other side and I saw the light at the end of the tunnel. One decision that I made that was so scary was my first real kind of breakup. I had a relationship during COVID, and I think a lot of people that are still in relationship with COVID, like low-key, you need to exit. You need to go. If we're still dating the person that we were dating during COVID, like you have to understand our brain chemistry was so fucked up. We were not meeting our human needs every day of like touching the right amount of people we're supposed to touch, like talking to strangers, having those daily communications, that I feel like our brains were just so fucked up that dating someone that you were with during the pandemic kind of isn't it, because you need to give yourself time to like explore and readjust. And I feel like it's just always going to keep you in like that bubble with that person that can be really toxic and suffocating. But yeah, one of my best decisions I ever made was like ending a relationship. And it's so weird because for the entire duration of the relationship, every day I was anxious that it was going to end. Is it anxiety that it's going to end, or is it knowing that it's not right and it's actually a gut feeling telling me like it's time to go, and I've ignored it so much that that's the anxiety? Or is it really anxiety that this person is perfect and I never want them to leave? The only way to find out sometimes is to do the thing that you're scared of. And so I ended it. And the day I ended it, I didn't have anxiety. Like the whole time I was in this relationship, my partner was like, you have anxiety, you have to work on it. And I was going to therapy and it wasn't going away. And everything I did, like worksheets, DBT, I could not get this anxiety out of my way. And I took Ativan, I took everything. I was on medication already. And then the minute that I just left, it was like the next day I woke up. I wasn't grieving. I wasn't anxious anymore. I didn't think about what other people were thinking about me. I just felt free. It was so weird. I wasn't sad. It's as if almost I grieved the whole relationship ending while the relationship was going on. And I was like, I'm ready to go put myself out there and be crazy and hook up and drink. And it's like, I wasn't even drinking during the relationship. I was so sober Sally. I wasn't going to parties. I wasn't trying to make friends. I wasn't hanging out with people. I was isolating. And I don't think it's because of the other person. I think I self-isolate maybe to show to the other person I'm always available. And that's always been my problem in relationships, right? Like if I know I'm with someone, I will clear my schedule for them to have the convenience of picking whatever day it is that they want to hang out with me, right? Like I used to get all my homework done, all my assignments done as soon as they came in, and not because I wanted to, but just because I wanted to make sure that at that person's beck and call, I would be available. And then that wasn't fair to me, because then the other person got to slack off. They got to not make a schedule. They just got to wake up and roll out of bed that morning and be like, maybe I want to see her today. But then for me, my whole life was revolving around that. And then when I ended that relationship, I realized all these people have been telling me I'm a perfectionist and I'm so type A. And all of a sudden I just wasn't. I was type B, and I realized that's who I am. I don't really want a stable schedule. I'm fine waking up at 10 a.m. and I'm fine procrastinating on an assignment. And sometimes I think the best that I've ever thought, and I'm like Aristotle at 2 a.m. the night before something's due. And all of a sudden I just saw life as like, it's so unserious. Why were you so serious about a relationship you were in like when you were 16? And even in my songwriting, I had been writing about breakups, and what I should have known as like the first sign of like I was mentally starting to break up with this person was that I could not stop listening to the song Happier Than Ever by Billie Eilish. I was like every day putting on the bridge, and then the song would end and I'd put on the bridge again and just keep clicking the bridge. Like I sometimes would drive my 15-minute drive from work to home and only play Happier Than Ever, and then I would come home and I would like turn off all the lights and I would literally just lip sync the bridge, take this microphone out, lip sync the bridge, and pretend that I was Billie Eilish like singing this, and I'd like get down on my knees and just be like, I don't relate to you. And it's like, actually, like that was a sign from your gut, like girl, that you needed to break up. And sometimes it's literally all it takes is a Billie Eilish song to be like, this isn't right for me. It's funny though, because I feel like I am lighthearted and I am quite silly and goofy, but so much dark shit has happened in my life. And I often have found people asking me like, are you 24? Which is only 2 years older than me, but I'm always like, no, I'm 22. And people have always been very shocked when they hear my age, and they're always like, you're very mature, but I don't feel mature at all. Maybe it's just that I'm able to like speak to grown-ups, and I've never been, you know, unable to connect with like a friend's mom or a, you know, partner's dad or like a boss at work. Like I feel like I've very much always been able to connect with people that aren't my age. I'm entering this age that I thought about a lot when I was younger, and I remember, you know, just to, I guess, dive into it, there's never really a good time to, but when my dad first passed away and I would go to guidance, and, you know, school was sending me to the guidance office all the time, I remember the guidance counselor was talking a lot about how his dad died, and he was like, yeah, you know, when I was like younger, and he was like 30, and I was like, what? Like, my dad died when I was 12. Like, how are you comparing this to me? And I remember just being so, you know, frustrated. And then I was sent to another guidance counselor who honestly saved my life. And she was talking to me and she said, you know, in so many ways, like you're lucky because people are going to lose their parents in their 30s and 20s, and it's going to completely disrupt their life. And they're going to learn all these lessons, and you just have the knowledge so young, and you're going through something that's so tough and so horrible. And I know you want more time, and you know, your dad's missing all these milestones, right? But at the same time, you're gaining so much wisdom and knowledge before all these other people at your age will. And then you're going to be able to bestow that knowledge onto them and really help them through that tough time when you see your friends starting to lose their parents. And recently on TikTok, I've been seeing so much loss, and it makes me so sad. But I do feel like I'm privileged in a way that I went through it so young. But at the same time, that comes with so many caveats of like, I'm 22, so my dad's been gone for 10 years, and in 2 or 3 years, I will have lived more life without my dad than with. And that's a difficult realization, you know. I graduated and my mom and my aunts were there, and that's awesome, but my dad wasn't. And if I get married, you know, my dad will not walk me down the aisle, unfortunately. And every year on August 17th, you know, I think of waking up that morning. When people die, it's like drama, and people are so interested and intrigued by you, and it gives you like this weird mystique. And so I do remember it was 2015, and I just graduated 6th grade, and we were going to middle school that year, so 7th grade. And the big thing about my town is that like 3 towns converge to middle school, so it's us and then surrounding 2 towns because we're so tiny. Like I grew up going to a very small suburban school. So I remember all of these comments on my Instagram posts from all these kids from other towns that didn't even know me yet. And a weird part of me was like excited, and I thought maybe these people will be my friends. And then once I got to middle school, I remember we walked into the gym to have this assembly, and I don't think anyone remembered but me. I walked in late, and some people from my school stood up and clapped for me, and I didn't know why. And I found out, like, thought about it years later. I'm like, oh, because my dad died, so people clapped for me. And I realized that that wasn't what I wanted. I didn't want friends out of pity or sympathy. I didn't want friends that just applaud me because my dad died. I didn't want that to be like something that was an achievement. But now, in a weird way, I flipped, And I think a lot of the time I don't give myself enough credit for being 12 years old and like making it through. And now when I'm trying to achieve something or get to a new goal, I'm not doing it for current me. I'm doing it for that 12-year-old. And not because like that 12-year-old's not healed or whatever. It's like that 12-year-old deserves it because of how much she put herself through. It was just such a crazy time. I mean, I would go to the student support center and I would miss like all my subjects in school. My teachers would have to like give my assignments to a guidance counselor that would give it to me, and then I'd be in this separate room and I'd be trying to like complete my assignments, and then I'd be taken out, and every couple hours it would just have these breakdowns, and it could be literally anything. And I remember at one point I actually got like kind of like a para to like follow me around for a bit just so I could like get to class, and she would help me sit through classes, and I would pick my favorite classes like social studies and English and decide like I'm gonna sit in those ones today, and that would be like an accomplishment. And I remember I would have half days and my mom would pick me up. I remember my aunts would pick me up. I mean, it was a lot, and I was grateful that I had the support, but at the same time I disappeared and my friends were kind of like not really there because they just didn't know how to be, and it was so weird, and no one knew like what to do with me besides like report me to guidance. And I remember that was kind of the time of like Finstas, and I would post often on my Finsta about like crying or just being like, no one's here for me, I'm so lonely. And I remember everyone saying like, she's attention seeking, she's this, or maybe they didn't say it, but I knew that's what they felt, but they couldn't because my dad had died, like something real had happened. Yeah, I did need attention, and that's okay. Sometimes people do attention seeking behaviors because they need attention. They need tender love and care. I had a working mom who went back to work a month later. She had to, and she worked, more than a 9 to 5. She had to leave because she had a really heavy commute, and, she had to hire people that could help, cook and help us go places after school and get us to rehearsals and after school activities and clubs. And, that was always hard. I always cried. I didn't want to be with these strangers. I didn't want them in my house. And I remember for the first couple weeks after my dad, like we always had people over, which was nice when it was like my aunts and my cousins, because those are people that had always been there, so it felt comfortable. But then, there was drop-ins from people and people dropping off, banana breads and mac and cheese, and sometimes they wanted to stay because again, it's like drama and they want to know like how's everyone doing, and it's like it's kind of none of your business. What did happen that day? What happened was I woke up and I had heard doors slamming, kind of. We were going to go to Barbados, like, that week. And we'd never gone out of the country before as a family. I'd never been on a plane. So I was excited. We only ever vacationed in Cape Cod and Maine because we just, like, didn't have that money as kids. And I actually had a promise with my dad for the longest time when Harry Potter World opened that he was going to bring me. And one day we were, like, going to go together. And I still haven't been. And it's still, like, on my bucket list because we promised we were going to go because we just... it's expensive to go with 4 kids and 2 adults. So my sister had to get her passport photo done or something, and so they had to get up really early because it was like back when, I don't know, things were just difficult to do like that. Like you had to go to a place and it's far away. And so I heard the doors open and close, and I'm like, oh, my dad's just going out with my sister. I literally went to the bathroom, and it's hard to even think about that because in retrospect, like that pee that I had was like the last pee as like a normal girl that like thought she had a father, and I was going to go to water country the next day, so I was thinking about that, and I remember all those thoughts, and that's when I walked down the stairs, and immediately, like, my aunt and my mom kind of, like, came out of the corner, like, and they were just, like, white, like, so white in the face. And that was, like, the scariest part, I think, of the whole day. And that's when I remember just, like, getting sat down with them and, like, getting told that he came home from dinner and for some reason had like wandered into like the left side of the yard and like hit his head and was found the next day by my mom. And that was it. It was like everything changed. And the thing that frustrated me the most was like the reason. And my mom at first thought it was a heart attack, and then later on found out that no, it was just like head trauma. And I thought like, how fucked up is that people can fall and just not get back up? I mean, it made no sense at the time. And the thing that bothered me was that, like, the kids who were in this group with me and, like, the surrounding towns that had lost a parent so young, they had lost a parent because of cancer or something horrible, like, I don't know, drunk driving, like something that had like this cause, and they could go to like a marathon, a walk for cancer or something, and they could talk about how their parents were survivors, and I couldn't. There was no organization for parents that died suddenly in a freak accident, and I had nothing to talk about that he was a survivor and he fought this battle. But I also just didn't even know, like, the last day was the last day, and I never got goodbye. I often still have dreams that he is alive out there and just living a separate life, and that makes me feel worse that he would just leave us. But that's sometimes how it felt. Like, there's some anger there of like, why? And yeah, it made me not believe in like a God, believe in anything. It made me super depressed. I don't think I really like got over it until I was like 18, 19. And just by that meant like waking up every day and being defined by it. Like, I was defined by it. Like, I would wake up and be like, my dad's dead. And now I'm the girl that's dad died. And I felt like, especially in high school, when people knew that about me, and that was their first introduction to me, it was like, oh, that was the girl that her dad died. It was horrible. That it's like, I could never get past that. I couldn't be like the artist. I couldn't be the girl that acted. I couldn't be the girl that sang. I just had to be this thing. And I was so good at school too. I was a great writer. And those things, I felt like when a teacher met me, that was never the first thing that they thought of. It was just like, her dad died. And then I went to college. The focus was very much just on like who you are and your identity. And it was hard to introduce myself as like the identity of like, I'm the girl with the dead dad. And there was some frustration in that it's like at least the people around me like knew how hard it was for me. And then at college it was just kind of this assumption like, you're at BU, so like you got it easy. And it was like, oh, it actually wasn't easy at all. Like, I had this single mom paying for like 3 college tuitions at one time, and I've always been working and a hard worker, and not because I wanted to be, but just because I had to be. And I feel so guilty that she paid for so much for me, and she did so much to like make sure I had a normal life. Like, she figured out ways that I could keep dancing, keep going to doing shows and going to rehearsals, and like, I was in every honors class and every AP class, and if I needed to be tutored, we figured that out too. So it was difficult to be seen as just another normal privileged kid, because in fact it wasn't really privileged. And there were so many things about school that sucked. Everyone assumed you had 2 parents. I mean, and it shouldn't be assumed, but people will be like, when your mom and your dad, and it's like, oh, get your mom and your dad to sign this, or like, mom and dad can volunteer to be a field trip chaperone. It was very tough. But I try to think of like the things that I've learned from that experience. One of the things I've learned is so stupid, but I always think if I have a biography one day, if I'm like ever important, it would be titled Grief is Like a Fart. That's something I had in my notes app for the past like 5 years. And it literally is so true. It's like the more you hold it in, the worse it gets. The more it's gonna smell when it comes out. The more it feels uncomfortable, the more it hurts you. And you're also like so anxious, like, what if someone hears this? Like, what if someone overhears this, and like, what if they think differently about me? And that's literally grief. And for the longest time, I felt like I just held it in. And now it's just something I do say nonchalantly, and I do tell people on dates even sometimes. They ask me like, what do my parents do? I say, well, one of them, he watches over me. That's his full-time job, actually. I have to just be honest about it and just own, that's truth. But it's difficult. I feel like sometimes people think maybe I have this key on how to deal with it. And honestly, a lot of how I dealt with it was like Grey's Anatomy. Like, that's what I remember the most in those early years. I found shows to binge, and I was so invested in Grey's Anatomy, particularly because it was so much about death and grief, and I just saw Meredith Grey go through so much. And I remember learning about Ellen Pompeo, that her mom died when she was 3, and she just became my superhero. I'm like, if her mom died even younger than me, and she was able to act and be on the show for 20 seasons, I can do anything. And it made me feel like there was hope, and sometimes you just need that role model. And I just was obsessed with Grey's Anatomy, and I remember watching so much Grey's and lying on the floor and listening to Chasing Cars and just crying and being like, I'm like Meredith Grey, and like all this shit has happened to me. And like I'd gone through other shit too. Well, a couple months before, my grandmother had died, which was my dad's mother, and then a couple months before that, my grandfather had died, my mom's dad, and then a couple months after my dad, a dog died who was like my favorite dog of all time, and then my aunt died, who was my dad's cousin, who was very close. So it felt like all the holidays were just so different, and family was just smaller. And you know, I used to be really tight with my dad's side of the family, and then after he passed, not that I don't love them, but it's like I became tighter with my mom's family because they were closer and they were here and they were helping out my mom because, you know, my mom was closer to them, which is a great thing in some aspects, but it was definitely like a weird dynamic. And I feel like that's one of the parts of grief that was the worst and the hardest, was like my mom used to be like the Saturday weekend mom because she worked and my dad stayed at home. And so our routine was just so fucked up. It was like now my mom was the weeknights mom and making dinner on the weeknights too and making sure we were getting breakfast, and it was hard for her, and she was no longer like the mom on the weekends where it's like we would do an excursion with her and like go to the farm, or we would go get chicken fingers at a restaurant or go hang out with my cousins. So that was a very strange adjustment. And it's very strange when you live like 12 years, in the first formative 12 years of your life, where you come home and you like know that you're gonna smell like your dad's meatballs, your dad's brownies. Like he always used to like make things if he knew my friends were coming over. Like he'd always make like a fresh batch of cookies. He was very Italian, very domesticated. Or even like he would get really creative with like the ways he would have leftovers. Like if we had meatballs, he'd make meatball tacos and then meatball calzones and meatball pizzas. And it's like to know you're gonna come home and like smell dinner cooking. And then it's like different when your mom's like, oh, I don't have time to cook, so I'm just like, we're picking up pizza tonight. And there was so many like weird changes like that, where it's like he's not sitting in his chair anymore with my dog at the foot of his chair. One thing that's very true that I still remember, one of my my therapist telling me, or my school counselors, was she was saying like the hole never goes away. Like you're always going to have some missing piece, but as time moves on, like small things are gonna fill it up. You'll fill it up. You'll fill up the bucket again. Physically thinking about things refilling my heart is like, you know, we have this new dog that my dad doesn't know, but Charlie, and she's like a puppy, and she's 6 years old, but she still acts like a puppy, and she runs with us, she walks with us, we play games with her, and it's like, that's a new thing that I have so much love for. That does fill up a chunk of that heart. It doesn't replace it. Like that hole's always missing, but it gets smaller and smaller over time. It'll never completely close, and there'll always be scars, right? And it sometimes will ooze and it will bleed, and other days it's just fine. But like permanently, that's gonna be something that's there. But yeah, I find friends that I've met afterwards that, you know, maybe my dad didn't know, or they weren't in my life before all this happened, and they just know the after version of me, which is weird to me, but they fill up my heart too. And experiences and maybe vacations I went on, and you do start to fill up. But yeah, I kept myself very busy, and I remember I had this one therapist who always say like, you know, you're a lot of human doing, not a lot of human being, and it drove me crazy. Because I'm like, who are you to tell me that doing things isn't gonna make me feel better? It did. And keeping myself busy and on a schedule really helped. Like, I think high school helped, of like, you know, getting up early in the morning and just having something to do. Like I used to do a full fucking face to go to school. Oh my god, it was so embarrassing. Like I can see all my products. I would do like the beauty blender, the setting, the eyeliner, all to go to middle school. Was like crazy. Straight ironing my hair every day. I smelled like a burnt fucking cookie down those hallways. But it was like, that was the thing that got me out of bed. Like truly, it's like, okay, if getting up at 6 a.m. to straight iron your hair every day is gonna get you out of bed, like, okay, cool. And it was the small things like that that I looked forward to. And I remember I shopped a lot. I bought a lot of clothes, and that kind of started an unhealthy obsession, because it was like, that's what I was trying to fill up my cup with. Like I would just buy anything I liked and saw I wanted. I also ate a lot. I was like heavier back then, which is okay. Like grief sometimes makes us eat, but I think I was just very much like self-indulgent and wanted to just do anything in the present that made it better. One of the things that I do remember that I loved is like my counselor said to me, she goes, you've got a dead dad pass for like the next 5 years eligible for, and maybe even your life, and if you don't want to fucking do something, you tell them, you know, my dad fucking died. And it's so funny because there's this movie Edge of 17 where she tells her professor that she didn't get her assignment out on time. She's like, my dad died. He's like, how long? She was like 6 years ago. And he's like, wow, the expiration on that has passed, which I don't necessarily agree with, but I was like, wow, that's so funny that like this movie perfectly captured loss for me. It's starring Haley Steinfeld if you haven't seen it, but it's an amazing movie because it talks about her relationship with boys, and she's like boy obsessed, right? And it's kind of like all her relationships with men go back to this loss, and like her relationship with her brother is really fucked up. And I always like just related so much to, like, she was so putting herself out there for these people that, like, she didn't know, but she was, like, obsessed with these fantasies about, like, the popular guy, and one day he's gonna, like, see her and gonna fall for her, and I love that idea because I would get fixated on the popular guy too. I thought, like, this will save me, and, like, someone will see me one day and it will take all the grief away, and I always thought, like, I was deserving of these things because, like, my dad died. And, like, I thought, like, my happy ending is coming. And, like, the happy ending is not coming from the guy that's literally, like, 5'7", wearing a messy jersey that's, like, on the soccer team. Like, he is not coming to save you. But, yeah, the dead dad pass. And it was something that worked for a really long time. Assignments. I would be like, yeah, I can't take that test. I'm good. I'm gonna reschedule it. And I would, like, postpone shit all the time. I was a gangster in that way. I'd be like, my dad died. Can't get that in on time. Boom. You can't argue with me. Fuck you. And it was very much a lot of fuck you. Like, I was very emo in those days, which is okay. And I remember one of my favorite things I did was I just, like, read Harry Potter, like, so much of it. I would just, like, walk around with Harry Potter books, and it was like, you're 16, why are you reading that? But truly, those are, like, a study on grief, like, how to get through it. I mean, he goes through so much, and it literally is a study psychologically on, like, how you can get through shit. And, like, you're watching someone so young that has suffered so much trauma and is just working through it, and he also has to, like, go to school, and I guess I really related to it in a way. And honestly, those were, like, the small things that just kept me going at that time. And I have such a strong connection for Harry Potter with my dad because it was the movies we watched together on sick days. He used to always do impressions of it. It was the first book I remember him specifically sitting down to read the first chapter out loud to me, and it was like how I learned to read was those books. So, like, those forever hold a special place in my brain. So I remember reading those books and how they just, like, kind of brought it all back to me. There's just weird signs from the universe. Like, my dad always and I had this inside thing about bumblebees, and sometimes I'll see bees and, you know, I think of him. Or, like, I have this woman at work and she believes in manifestation, and sometimes she gives me a little manifestation moon water that she puts out, and one time she made it with her granddaughter, and her granddaughter put, like, a bee charm in it. I was like, oh my god, like, that's my dad. And, like, sometimes I just know those things, and, like, it's so bizarre. I mean, I've always had weird signs from the universe. Like, I have this angel number 217, and sometimes, you know, going to check out in the numbers perfectly 217 at, like, Walmart, and I have to, like, send it to my friends, or, like, they see 217 and they send it to me. Sometimes my bank account will be exactly at, like, a 217 number that's weird, or, like, my following on Instagram has been, like, 200, I don't know what it is, but it's been 217 in it for a really, really long time. There's weird things, like I was watching English teacher, and he has something in his car, it's like his parking pass, and it says 217 on it, and it's just such a weird sign from the universe. But whenever I see it, I'm like, okay, something good's gonna happen, right? Or if I see a bumblebee, it's like something good's gonna happen. And actually, my friend, she painted me a picture of my dog who passed, which is kind of, I think, why grief is on my mind. But she painted a little bumblebee in it, and she's like, I just remembered the thing about the bumblebee, and it, like, brought me to tears. Like, it's just a small thing. My roommate one time, she's like, I don't really want this necklace, do you want it? It was a bumblebee necklace. Like, sometimes things just come to you and it comforts you, you know. I had this really weird one actually recently where me and my mom were working on something together, like a project, and we were leaving, and we were at Mass General Brigham, and we drove by. We were in traffic, heavy traffic, and she goes, did that guy just fall? I didn't see this guy fall. I see him on the ground. I'm like, yeah. So we roll down the window, and he starts stumbling over. I'm like, there's clearly something wrong with him. And then he goes back, and he, like, literally falls back down, and we're like, oh my god, we have to call someone. This woman runs across. She's like, I'm actually a nurse. And so I get out of the car, and I'm helping him while my mom's on the phone with 911. And he gets back into consciousness. He looks up at me, and he goes, do you believe in love at first sight? And I was like, my heart, like, literally stopped. And I go, yeah, sure, of course I do, sir. And he's like, then it's so easy for you, and it's gonna come like that. I have dated or, like, had situationships, but not, like, a real relationship in a really long time. And I think a lot of people have said that, like, you're very closed off in that. And, like, even when I meet someone really nice, I struggle to, like, get on a second date with them and, like, agree to go on a second date. And the ones that I get obsessed with are the ones that aren't meant for me, that are, like, you know, that avoidant attachment type. And I think I'm just obsessed with the idea of, you know, the chase. And so I was like, wow. But I'm also like, God, can you stop, like, hurting people to get messages through to me? Like, I feel like the universe is trying to give me a message, but, like, you didn't need to, like, make an old man fall down the stairs to get it to me. Also, I'd had, like, a reading from a psychic who had told me, like, at the end of this year, you're gonna meet someone that you're gonna have a very, like, meaningful long-term relationship with, and you're gonna meet them in a very public place. And that kind of reminded me of, like, the love at first sight thing. And I'm like, I don't know if any of this is real. I don't know if I should really be buying into this, but, like, okay, it kind of gives me hope. And then there was another weird thing where, like, I was supposed to go to LA, and I was so excited, and I've wanted to move there forever. And then I booked tickets. I made an arrangement with my friend to like stay with her. And the week that I was supposed to go, LA caught on fire. And I was like, is this a sign from the universe that I'm like not supposed to go? And my friend was like, how narcissistic of you to think that like LA is catching on fire and that's specifically meant to tell you not to move there. But I didn't move there right away after college, and like I've had a meaningful time of just like being with family. I got this new job that's gonna help me like save up money. I've saved up a really good chunk of change. And I think like that's important to me, to just have this time where I'm just decompressing, relaxing, sleeping for 10 hours and like being part-time employed, and like that's literally fine. The thing that's really weird though is recently I've just been feeling like I'm physically depressed versus like mentally depressed. Like I feel kind of all together there and like happy, and I feel like for the first time in my life I have like really good friends that make me laugh till I cry, which is something actually when my dad died I felt like I lost. I felt like I used to really, really laugh, and then there was a lot of years of fake laughing, and still when I'm on dates I find myself fake laughing. But recently like I've had some really good laughs with just random people, like coworkers, friends, and like just funny fucking shit that I have like a real good laugh at, and I don't stop myself from laughing anymore. I have these days where I'm just like, I'm so lazy, I want to bed rot, or like I'm not eating, or I'm eating a ton, and it's back to like those depression habits. And like I struggle to get myself to go on a walk or like go to the gym, and I'm trying to think of myself like, is my depression like coming up for me again? Is it coming before I know that it's gonna come? And it's like, is my body trying to tell me like you're about to get depressed? Like, you know, like these are the warning signs, and I really struggle with it still. And you know, I've been depressed a lot in my life, like for very long periods of times. Like I've been to the hospital. I have been to multiple therapists, and I finally have a therapist that I've been with for like 5 years. Thank God. She actually said she was gonna listen to my podcast, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about that, because like I don't know how many jokes I've made about like having negative bad coping mechanisms. Is crazy. Imagine she hears that, she's like Freudian slip writing that down. No, like bad coping mechanisms, and like please don't use this for my file. That's something that's really weird recently, and it's like I feel fine, but for the first time in my life I'm in like this physical depression, and I don't really know how to get out of it, and I'm just like wearing the same sweats. But it's like, is this actually depression, or is it like I'm just decompressing and I'm like comfortable and I'm just like in my comfy era, and I want to watch movies because like I'm happy? And it's like, can these habits be because of happiness? Like maybe I'm just in my bed more because it's like I want to relax and I'm working so hard, and there are areas of my life that I'm really happy and proud of, and like I've gone through so much and I've done so much in this year. Like I really have, and like to look back on it, like I've worked so hard, I've saved up so much money, and I'm working jobs that I don't want to work, but I am in food service and bartending, and maybe it's okay that I'm bed rotting, and maybe I am just associating it with depression and like getting hard on myself for doing that, but like maybe it's just rest, and like rest is like what I need right now. I did recently post a TikTok of me like crying, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm doing this part-time job, and like I'm not following my dream, and it's something that does keep me up at night, where it's like, how long do you save up and do the safe thing before you just take a risk? And should you just drop it all and go after the thing you want for tomorrow? Or should you be smart about it, and should you be safe about it? And it's like, what if we got into a war tomorrow? I don't want to be in LA and not be with my mom. I'd rather be like clocking into my job down the street. I would. And like there is something meaningful about being around my cousins and being around my aunts and, you know, my friends, my hometown friends that are like siblings to me at this point. And I think it's also just like, be where you are, and just like trying to be present as possible every day. Just be grateful. Some people don't have any part-time job, and I should be just grateful I'm like making this time worth it, and just spending time with the people I love. Like, when will I get to just like call up my grandfather on a random day and ask him to go out to lunch? You know, like sometimes we won't have those times in our life. Like, we're gonna get really busy. I'm gonna be really busy. So it's like, one thing that I'm really grateful for is that I moved back home towards the end of my dog's life. This has been hard. I actually tried to talk about it. I took a break off the podcast when I was first starting because it happened. I've had a dog for 17 years. He was actually alive when my dad was alive. I got him in kindergarten or first grade. His name was Iggy. We argued about the name. We ended up naming him Rudy. He was tiny, baby. He was in a huge litter. My mom worked with someone at the time that kind of fostered or like bred dogs. And they were all mixes. Like it wasn't like a purebred kind of thing, but he was one of the only two that didn't look like his brothers and sisters, and he was bright red. We played with all the dogs, and at the end of the day, we picked him. My dad wasn't there, but we brought him home. My dad loved him. Like, that became like my dad's dog. And he was just the cutest little thing. And he grew up, and he was just like wanted to play. He was like squeaker toys, loved eating. He was such a big eater. He was such a big beggar. But he was just like my childhood dog. You know, he grew up with me, and oh my god, I'm getting so emotional about this. It's crazy that my dog dying got me more emotional than this segment about my dad dying earlier. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's why grief is weird. But it all comes back to like the big losses in your life. Like, these small losses bring up that grief of the bigger loss, and it all ties together. And it's hard when someone tells you that. Your therapist is like, you know, I'm sure this brings up feeling your dad. So you're like, no fucking shit. Like, leave me alone. Like, we don't have to talk about that. I'm smart. I actually have grieved for the majority of my life, and I understand the ins and outs of it. I don't need someone to verbalize it to me. Like, I get it. But yeah, he was my childhood dog. He saw me from kindergarten to college, and I often say, like, he waited to just like make sure I got out of college, like, okay. And then for the summer I lived in Boston, and I feel like he waited for me to like move home. Thank God I moved home and I didn't get the job that I wanted in New York, because I was with him for his last like moments. I was with him in the car. I was with him, you know, when it happened. I just got that time to say goodbye, and that was the one thing with my dad that I never got to do. So in a lot of ways, it's a beautiful thing to be 22 and not have it figured out and be at home and getting to say goodbye. There's a lot of things that I'm gonna have to say goodbye to. I know I want to move. And how many times in my life am I going to be able to go to the farm down the street and get a cider donut? That it's the farm I grew up going to. I had a donkey that I thought was like my donkey there. I'd go there, you know, with our cousins, and we'd always feed the goats. And it's like, how many more times would I be able to do that? Or go to the town festival, or the town fair, go get a coffee from the store down the street. It's kind of like, in a way, I'm going to be, for the next months, like, grieving this life and losing this life and just being appreciative toward it, and like going down the same streets on my bike that I've been biking these streets forever. And it's like, oh, right over there is, you know, the parking lot where I was hooking up with my first boyfriend, and the police found us and pulled us over and made me get out of the car with my shirt off and be like, what are you guys doing over here? Or, you know, over there was where I fell off my bike and I broke my wrist. I live in this suburb that I thought was so boring for so much of my life, just to realize it's kind of like the safest and most comfortable, quietest place, and like the best place to just be reflecting. And so I'm just trying to, you know, make a podcast and talk to people and connect with people, and I'm trying to write, and it's just like, we're gonna try. I'm gonna try to do as much as I can possibly do creatively here until there's nothing left for me to do and I have to move to New York or Los Angeles. And I've got to be a storyteller, but like, I am still a storyteller. And I posted this TikTok earlier, and I was like, yeah, I'm a waitress and it's sad, I just want to move. And when I tell people that I serve at the table, they go like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, oh, I want to be in film. They kind of just go quiet. They don't say anything. They're like, oh, that's great, good for you, awesome. And it's kind of like they're looking at me as this trope of like, I'm the first half of the La La Land movie, but they know that I'm never going, I'm never leaving it. And I have that fear often, and so it's hard to get that fear reflected back to you. And often I think about like my professors, and are they just like following me on Instagram being like, oh, Ava at her old summer job, Ava, you know, at the farm again today. And it's like, actually, fuck that. If they are thinking that, because they're my teachers and they're supposed to be proud of me, and like just trust that I'm on my path. But also, like, they didn't do what they wanted. They wanted to become actors, and guess what? They're fucking teaching. So I don't give a shit. And all the kids at my fucking school that are like, you know, out there in New York, if they are judging me, then fuck them. They've never worked a real job. They probably have families and parents that are paying off their shit. They probably are like Nepo trust fund babies, okay? Because anyone that would look at what I'm doing would respect me. And anyone that has a judgment on me being 22 and starting a fucking podcast that I'm filming on my phone, fuck them. They've never worked a day in their life. They don't know what it's like to clock into a retail job or serve a table or bus tables till 10 p.m. And you know what? I'm grateful that I've had that life experience, because I know if I do succeed, I will be the first person donating, tipping extra people, talking about causes that are worth it, talking about Palestine. I'd never be one of these fucking billionaires that wouldn't talk about a genocide that's literally going on in front of your eyes. I will always be on the right side of history. I would never ever sell myself fucking out. And I know that because I've grown up with like actual real fucking experiences. And so yeah, there's some days where I'm like, I'm really fucking grateful that my dad died, because I have the biggest fucking heart. And I know that if my friend's dad died and I was in LA, I dropped fucking everything, buy the plane ticket tomorrow to be there for them for the next 2 fucking weeks. And I know I'd check on them in a month when everyone stops checking in on them. I know for the rest of my life, like, I will be a very caring, considerate person. I know that I will be a loving fucking partner to whoever I end up with, because I've gone through shit. And a lot of people that are my age haven't gone through shit. So if they're judging me, like, fuck you. I've actually accomplished more than you have in your fucking life because I got myself out of bed when I was 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, knowing that I lost my dad in a really fucked up way, never got to say goodbye, and was crying on my floor like every night, watching Grey's Anatomy over and over and over again, binge watching TV, eating popcorn, eating raw cookie dough, and I got myself out of bed. I got all my assignments done. I got AP classes. I got A's in my honors classes. I was on student council. I did 3 shows at a time. I was getting lead roles, and what were you doing? Getting drunk. And I was working a full-time job. I'm a single mom who works 3 jobs, who loves her kids. But seriously, and I have to think sometimes too when I'm like, oh, I'd be a bad mother. I was like, bitch, I was like raising myself. Like my mom obviously raised me, but like a lot of days I had to talk to myself like I was my own parent and be like, bitch, we've got to get up. We've got to shave our legs today. Like we've got to put on deodorant. We got to brush our teeth. So if people are ever fucking judging you, just take a look back on like your personal experiences. Like I went through so much at the age of 12 that most people won't go through till they're like 30 or like halfway through life. And it makes me just have a deeper meaning of like, I don't know, just being responsible and what it means to be independent and like taking care of people and like why it's important to have this time after you graduate to just like be around people that you love. Like you never know when that day is going to be your last, and like thank God I can look back in 10 years and be like, well, at least like, you know, when I was 22 I had time to like go visit my grandfather and like talk to him and hear his life stories about like being in the war. I'm glad we talked in this like stripped down way. So to my friend who literally said, Ava, you don't talk and you're not serious and you're not deep on your podcast. Well, bitch, I got deep today. I think I started talking about this at the beginning, but I had like this whole thing where I was saying like it's hard to like talk about your trauma now because of trauma dumping, and there's so many words that have become buzzwords like love bombing, boundaries. And one of the things about boundaries that I find is like particularly hard with like men that like are like, I need boundaries, like I need space. It's like, I mean, I guess it's everyone. I'm not going to generalize. I won't generalize men today. Not today. We're not coming for them. Actually, this has been a men supportive episode, I feel. I've been like supportive because I haven't talked about them, so silent support, I guess. But boundaries are meant to keep you safe, not keep other people out. And that's something I think we struggle with. Like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. That's a boundary. And I often struggle with this in art school and like acting school. Is like, we'd be like doing a scene and a teacher would ask a question like, have you ever experienced this? And they're like, this is a boundary. I don't want to talk about this thing, or I don't want to talk about this in my work. I don't want to do pieces on this. And for me, I always felt the opposite. Like I've been suicidal in my life. I have self-harmed. And so for me, I gravitate towards material like that because I want to be a truthful, accurate representation of it. And if someone should do that material, it's someone that should like lived it. And so a lot of these people will be like, I don't want to touch that in my work. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to do that. But for me, it's like, well, why go through something if not to talk about it with other people, and if not to spread awareness and to not show someone like, I can go through this and still be an actor and still be an artist and like do something with it. Like how can I make that experience meaningful? Like why does it just need to stay a negative experience? And so I often like struggle with boundaries because I think like, yeah, boundaries are supposed to protect you, right? Like have physical boundaries, obviously, like that makes so much sense, but like these mental emotional boundaries sometimes just get in the way of like intimacy, and our generation already has intimacy issues. Like we've created this hookup culture and we've made sex like just this useless thing. And trust me, like girl, I've been around the block. Like I think everyone in the surrounding towns like at one point had my Snapchat, and like I was just like, you know, and I'm not embarrassed to say, like, there are definitely people out there with my boobs on their phones, you know, and if that gets out, like, okay, that's okay, that was my choice that I made at 19, and that was stupid of me, but, so I'm not shaming anyone, because I've been a part of it, but it is kind of sad that, like, we meet people on our phones now, and we don't look up from our phones in public, and, you know, sex is just something that, you know, women feel like they have to do it like men. It's all very sad, like, intimacy is just dead, and we've lost like physical intimacy between, you know, a family. Like I even saw a TikTok about some girl and she's like, I'm in my brother's bed right now and it's some girl's dream, and that's so weird, and everyone's like, why are you in your brother's bed? And it's like, well, siblings can be like chilling in each other's bed, like siblings can hug, like why? It's like so weird to me that like intimacy just does not exist in any form, like not just sexual. I find that like boundaries boundaries just keep other people out? Like sometimes people are like, oh, I'm putting up this boundary of like, I don't want to talk about my exes. And it's like, well, if I don't know about your exes and like what didn't work, how are we supposed to make this relationship work? Like I need to know these things so I know like what not to do. Like how can we succeed? It's literally like, why would you have an experience just not to learn from it? It's like the more we shove it away, the more we never learn, the more you're bound to repeat the same mistake over and over and over and over again. So that is something I'm unavailable for. I don't even think I said it in like an hour because we've gotten like so deep. And like that's the thing is like, I guess like now that like the podcast isn't like taking off as much as I want it to, right? Like we have like 400 views maybe on a good TikTok day. And it's kind of like the same thing with my album. I have like 9 streams and like I've talked about that, but like music is a passion of mine. I hope to do it one day. And I write songs still, and I've written so many songs, and I have songs actually like on Logic that are like ready to be mastered. And I actually have a couple that are mastered. I'm like, this is awesome. I want to put it out. But like at the same time, I really like putting things out when I know I have a vision for an album. I don't just like throwing singles out, and that's not really a thing that people do. Like now on TikTok, they say just keep throwing shit at the wall. And it's like, I do think like this podcast is throwing shit at the wall. I'm like, try this thing. Let's try music. Let's try TikTok. Let's try things. Like, and see what sticks, because I'm 22 and I don't know what my path is. I don't know if I'm destined to be someone great. I don't know if I'm destined to be a storyteller, but I know that I have lots of stories in me and I have lots of feelings, lots of emotions. It's like, where do they go? Like, I guess I'll try this TikTok thing. Like, I can't get these meetings in person with like reps and talent agencies, so like let me just throw shit at the wall and be like, this is who I am and I'm gonna be my most authentic self today. There's this other element of me that's like, well, I don't want to throw shit at the wall and like just be producing shit. Like I want to try to like make something good still. Like I want to try to make something quality, and like I'm all for campy. Like look at this, like this podcast set, me filming it on my phone, like me using the pop filter, like it's not quality, but I'm like, I can still make my content quality. And I think my songs are really good, and like not many people have found my music, and like that's okay. Like if that failed, I can try again. But like you really just gotta try. And it's so hard to tell people, but you just have to try, because like the minute you can just break through, like you're in this box right now, but once you can break through that ceiling, like there's gonna be so many opportunities on the other side. Like you'll meet people that will know other people, and you'll have this network, and suddenly you can get jobs easier. But it's just hard to land that first thing. It's hard to get that one viral video. It's hard to get that one song that gets you some followers on Instagram. It's hard to get that one role that gets you an agent. It's hard. It's really hard. But like we're in it together, and that's also why I wanted to make the podcast, because I was so sick of seeing like advice podcasts from people that are like doing it in their $10,000 a month LA apartment, or like doing it from their mansion. And it's like, that's fine. Like I truly did start this podcast like wanting to give advice and like wanting to be meaningful in the world, like wanting to talk. And that's why I tried to like make a serious episode today, like not do jokes. I'm not even taking calls today actually, because I was like, let's just do like a deep episode. Let's just do like a get to know me and like the dark side of me, since you know the light side of me. And it's like, if no one finds this episode, like cool, I might make 100 episodes of this podcast and no one ever fucking finds it. And maybe one day I get famous and like, remember when you had this podcast? And I'll be like, yes, like the real ones know. But like maybe I can make a few people like laugh, or they can cry with me, or they can be like, I relate to that, and that's cool that she's doing this. And like even people from high school reached out to be like, this is so cool that you're doing this. I'm like, girl, you did not talk to me in the hallway, not even a hello, not even a hi, not even a how are you, but like, love that you reached out, like thank you. People like seeing people do something different and just putting themselves out there. So I have to like say that to myself. That's like, the right people will come. Like people do like seeing people that are just themselves and cool and authentic, but you also can't be like trying to be authentic. You know, people can sniff that out on the internet. You just gotta be in the space of like trusting yourself, trusting the plan, and just knowing that the plan's gonna go awry, and you're gonna make mistakes a million times, and you're gonna get broken up with, and people are gonna die, and you're gonna literally be like, why is life so painful? And then you're gonna meet a friend, like I said, that like makes you laugh until you cry, and makes your ribs hurt, and someone to scream with at the concert and cry with, and they're not judging you. Find relationships that are not like relationships that you're thinking of, that fill you up. And it's like when you invest in those, that like the true love and all that bullshit will come. But also like I'm okay right now in my life with like not having that, and I don't feel the need. And just because I'm like failing maybe in my career, and like by failing I mean not really getting to be where I want to be, I don't have enough money to move yet, I'm not like making art, I'm not on set, I'm not like producing music that's getting lots of hits, I'm not making a podcast with lots of views, I'm not like getting tons of followers. I think I still have 130 followers, but like at the same time, like that doesn't mean that I need to invest all my time in finding love. It doesn't mean that I'm failing if I don't have both things figured out yet. If you're failing at one thing, why move on to the next area? Like try. Promise, once you follow things that you want, like that stuff will fall into place Do I know that? Like, no, but like truly when you put your mind on other things, like it will help. You gotta like stay focused and keep with like the passion and like the reason why you want to be alive. And then other people, when they see you lit up like that, that light attracts others. And when people are in the dark, they're gonna look for that candle. Like, you're gonna be that beacon of light for them, where they see you following your passion, they go, I wanna follow my passion, and that lights something in them. You light the match, and then that lights a candle, and then candles can light up other candles. But we gotta find our spark first. So whether your spark is making a podcast, whether it's clocking in to work down the street at the cafe, whether it is like sitting and doing business things, whatever business people do, and like finance, and like, I don't know, do you guys count money all day, make spreadsheets? Like, if that's your purpose, that's good too. But you've got to just find that spark. And if you haven't found it yet, just try. But don't try to be lighting other people's candles. You got to figure out what you want to do with your life before you find out who you want to do it with. Wait to just settle into your career. Don't settle for a man and chase your career. Settle into a career and then chase a man. Or like, not a career, I guess settle into a dream before you chase a man. It doesn't have to be career oriented. I think it's been a good episode. I don't think there's much else to say. I just kind of wanted to like talk today and ramble. And you know, there probably won't be a million clips that are like super funny from this episode. It's kind of like giving depressing and boring and melancholic and very middle school and very like feel bad for me and very like victim complexy, and I hope it doesn't come out like that, but maybe it does. And also it's OCD awareness day, so maybe my OCD just be acting up and my thoughts are like racing right now. But there's not gonna be like clippable moments for TikTok, so it's gonna be hard to like market this. So this was really just an episode for you. Like, we were just gabbing. Like, I opened up my diary and I talked to you about middle school. Maybe we'll just have little sessions like this when there is no calls. There's also like literally no calls. Like, I have like 3 or 4 left in the canon, but like we need more calls. So if you guys want like those funny episodes, like, you need to call in and like give me a funny call, please. But anyways, I really want to go watch Harry Potter with my friend. I want to eat tomato soup. I want to eat a cookie. I want to have another coffee. I'm on 3 today. Okay, ciao, peace out. I love you. And if you don't know me, I love you too. We're gonna get through this together. I am 22. I am now full-time employed. I'm a full-time employee now, but not really doing something I want to do, but I'm a full-time employee. Let's just clap for that. All right, but love you. Let's get through this together. Grief is like a fart. Don't hold it in. And if our pets are on the other side of the rainbow road together, they're playing and they're so happy. And if you are sad right now, even if you feel like it's such a small thing, don't try to get over it. Just live in it. Bed rot a little bit. Bed rotting can do us so much good. It's crazy. And keep following that passion, girl. Don't give it up. Unless it's like your passion is to like murder people and like be a fascist, then like give that up, girl. And like, let's seek help and get you on some SSRIs. Love you so much. Bye.